The big headline with the Air 4 Pro is HDR10. These are the first display glasses in this category officially built around true HDR10 capability on dual micro OLED panels. And yes, when you feed them proper HDR content, you can absolutely see a difference. How's it going, everyone? Don here, and welcome back to VR Gamer Dude. So today on the channel, we're going to be taking our first look at the new Rayneo Air 4 Pro XR glasses. And I can't thank Rayneo enough for sending these over. I have been uber curious to check these out ever since I heard they were getting HDR10 support. So in this video, as always, we'll get them unboxed, I'll get them set up, and then I'll give you some thoughts. How I evaluate display glasses is basically the things that I care about or what I talk about. So let's get this important PSA out of the way. To see true HDR10, your source device has to actually output HDR. Now, that means your phone, your handheld, your laptop, or console has to support HDR over USB-C DisplayPort or through some sort of an adapter. Now, if the source is only sending SDR, you're not going to get true HDR out of these glasses, but the glasses can actually up convert. That's right. The Air 4 Pro does include the built-in SDR to HDR tone mapping through its Vision 4000 co-processing chip. And even when you're not connected to a native HDR source, you can enable the enhancement modes that expand contrast and brightness dynamically. I mean, now that is not the same as true HDR10, but it does improve the perceived punch and depth of SDR content. So you're not stuck with a flat image if your device doesn't support HDR output. Now, let's talk about hardware. These use dual 0.6-inch micro OLED displays running at 1920 by 1080 per eye in standard 2D mode, and side-by-side 3D video playback that actually becomes 3840 by 1080 across both eyes. Now, they support refresh rates up to 120 Hz in SDR mode, and it looks smooth. Now, here's the practical clarification. While the glasses are rated at 120 Hz, when HDR10 is activated over USB-C, most devices currently will only run 60 Hz. So in real-world use, you're typically choosing between 120 Hz in SDR mode or 60 Hz with HDR enabled. That's not a marketing issue. It's just the bandwidth and implementation and how it all behaves right now. Now, the peak brightness in these is rated at up to 1200 nits, and that brightness is critical for HDR. The color depth is 10-bit with roughly 98% DCI-P3 coverage, and the contrast is listed at around 200,000 to 1. They also use advanced dimming, which helps reduce visible flicker and makes longer sessions more comfortable. Now, what does that mean when you're actually wearing them? Well, when I put them on and I load up HDR content, the highlights pop more, the shadows retain better separation, and the dark scenes don't wash into a gray haze. Bright reflections and specular highlights feel more alive. And, it's closer to watching an HDR OLED TV than what I've experienced in most of the previous display glasses that I've reviewed. Now, when I'm using SDR content with enhancement mode enabled, I still see improved contrast shaping and brightness. Not true HDR, but it definitely makes standard content look richer. And, well, it's just better than the older glasses that pass through SDR untouched. Now, another quick PSA here. Some devices support HDR, but they don't enable it automatically. So you may need to actually turn HDR output on in your display settings. Now, if you plug these in and you don't see a difference right off the bat, just double check that your source settings here are correct before assuming HDR isn't working. Now, comfort has been super solid. I mean, these glasses weigh around 76 grams without the nose pads, and they feel light on the face. And, once you dial in the alignment correctly, the image sharpness improves and you stop constantly repositioning them. And, here's another interesting thing. They're IPX5 rated, which means everyday sweat or a very light exposure to, it starts raining real quick, not going to hurt the glasses, but still don't recommend, getting them wet. Audio is tuned in partnership with Bang & Olufsen, and it uses 4 built-in speakers that you can use in either a whisper or a surround mode. Now, I do still prefer earbuds in louder environments, but at home or at a desk, the built-in audio genuinely is usable and well balanced. It just doesn't have enough bass for my particular taste. Okay, so that's it. That's my real world take after actually living with the Rayneo Air 4 Pros for the last week. So, as always, I will have a link for these in the description if you are looking for just something that really bangs out the HDR, really looks good for cinema, gaming. You don't really want to go into the full AR experience. You're looking for more of a display type setup. This has got you covered. So I will have a link for it in the description. As always, go check it out there. And if you feel it's right for you, grab one. But for me, that's going to do it. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. This is Don, signing off.